CQ Blind Ham. Hello, CQ Blind Ham. CQ Blind Ham from November Echo 5 Victor. CQ Blind Ham. CQ Blind Ham from November Echo 5 Victor.
This is the CQ Blind Hams podcast. For more information, visit www.blindhams.com.
Welcome, everybody, to the Blind Hams podcast, CQ Blind Hams podcast, associated with the Blind Hams Network. My name is Julian Vargas. The call is N1CA, November 1, Charlie Alpha in the Los Angeles area, Southern California. And yeah, I'm relatively the newcomer. I've only been around here since last year when I finally got talked into going into DMR. And once being on DMR, searching for talk groups and things like that, learned about the Blind Hams Network, and I started getting on. And Joel, I think you were one of the first people who came back to me and talked to me. So it's been a fun time. It's also certainly lightened my wallet quite a bit from all the things I've been tempted into buying and got into since then. But you know what? It's one of the things that helped me absolutely keep my sanity during the lockdowns related to the COVID virus. And I don't know what I would have done had I not discovered these digital modes, and particularly this network, to speak with other people who were like myself, blind on some level, and tinkering with this stuff. It's the first time that I've come across a group that was exactly like this. I've met other blind people over the air over the years since I've been a ham. In fact, I got my original novice license at the Braille Institute here in Los Angeles. They used to have a ham radio class. So I've been around other blind hams before, but it's the first time I found a group that was primarily populated by other blind hams who were just tinkering with all this neat stuff. And boy, I've learned a lot. Like I said, it's cost me a pretty penny, but well worth it in terms of, I think knowledge is priceless, and connecting with other people is priceless. And I can't say enough good things about the experience. It's been wonderful.
Well, good. And we're glad to have you and all the other blind hams in the group. I'm Joel, W0CAS. I'm up in Crossville, Tennessee. And Dennis, WB6OBB, my first cohort on the group. We met on the mail serve, the group blindhamsgroup.io mail serve, and then we got into DMR, and somebody asked me a question. No, I asked a question on the mail serve. I said, are they a net? We actually started over on HandyHams, DMR Talk Group 31990, and I asked somebody, I said, are there any nets on this talk group? And they said, no, but you ought to start one. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've never been in net control. I've only been a ham for about a year or two. So Dennis and I met on that 31990, and we decided to start the Blind Hams DMR net. And it was going pretty good. Dennis, tell them a little bit about your first time when we started doing the net. And you were my first net control that I asked to help out.
Yes, Joe, good morning to everyone. Name is Dennis Schwetner here in Santa Barbara, just up the coast from CA there, and Southern California. When I first started DMR, just a friend and I just, bought the radios and stuff, didn't know anything about it. And it was about half a year before anybody else was getting it in our club. And so we finally got ours up and going, and, got on. And then, like Joel said, that we met one time and on HandyHams, and thought we would start our own private, not private, but public talk group. And so we decided to do it. Did you get the talk group, or somebody else did?
Yeah, I went over to Brandmeister and started researching how do you start a talk group. HandyHams had introduced Echolink through repeaters, and it was kind of rough to listen to. Echolink has improved so much in the last few months that it wasn't like that when we first got started on the Handy Hams talk group. So we decided to go over and make a quiet talk group, and I went to Brandmeister, and they give us the 31679 DMR ID, and it started there.
Absolutely, and it was nice and quiet. There was a few check-ins at the very beginning, and I've been net control for over 30 years here in Santa Barbara since 1983 every morning. And just recently I've sort of backed away. I'm only doing 2 days a week now, and I got another guy going with me, and we're doing trivia and all that. But anyway, yeah, the DMR started up, and I don't think we got that many at the beginning, but it kept building and building. I go, holy mackerel, this thing's going to be a giant system. And when we broke 10 and then 20 and 30, and you go, whoa, this is pretty good.
Yeah,
and then
we had 3 check-ins the first time, Dennis.
That's right. You and I, who was the other one?
I think it was John, N1 UMJ, I believe it was, checked in the first time.
Oh, okay.
That was April 7th, 2018, so 3.5 years ago.
Wow, how time has changed. And so it's been working very, very well. Since last year, I had emergency surgery down in City of Hope. I had to back away a little bit on the system because I was in there 2 months, and what a pain that was. But anyway, back up and going now, and all these net controls are doing real well, and so many people. And of course, when there's a prize coming up, you see people coming out of the woodwork, just to win something. That brought it up to 70. Remember, 74, 75 people when we were just getting 40 or maybe 50. But when there's a prize, boy, people love to join in. But now it's just unbelievable with everything that everybody's doing. And of course, All-Star really made the audio so much nicer than DMR. And I finally got an All-Star, and I really like it so much neater and good audio and all that sort of good stuff. So, but yeah, I think it's a good idea to have at least a meeting once quarterly at least, and see if there's any problems or any other interruptions or anything that might be going on the system. And of course, Patrick is doing such a good job with all these connections, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them, plus on Echolink, you can listen to that. And I guess even CQ, have you done, Joel? It can be done on that. Somebody said I haven't done that. I got to try it, but it's working, and I'm glad we started it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Now this bring us up to the future a little bit. Dennis and I, when we got ready to turn over the reins, I turned it over to Robert. Was net control manager for a while, and Robert passed it on to Chris. And when Chris got a hold of it, man, he got some great net control operators in, and the nets have really expanded. And Chris, tell us a little bit about your story into DMR and how you got with this group.
Well, first I better say Robert actually didn't pass it on. I just actually took it because what happened is he said he wanted to pass it on to somebody. And of course, most of the net controllers that I'm using now are already in place. And so I got together with them. I said, okay, does anybody else want this? And everybody said, no, you do it. So I don't know if it was really passed on or what, but it's been fun to do. The thing pretty much runs itself. I don't really have to do a whole lot because of the people that we have. It's been quite a joy to do. But as far as DMR, I fought it for a long time. I had a friend in San Angelo who's now passed on, who was a member of this group for a while, WB5 VRM John in San Angelo. He said for years, he says, yeah, you need to get on DMR. He says, I like DMR. You need to get on DMR. Okay, one of these days I will. So finally in 2018, I did. And, I had an MD380, and it took me a while to figure out how to program this thing. It took quite some time. And anyway, one time when I was programming, I started looking at a list of Brandmeister repeaters, and I saw Blind Hams Network. I thought, okay, what is this? I had no idea of the Blind Hams IO group at all, but I thought, okay, I'm programming this MD380. Let me stick it in here. So I did. And that was in April of 2019. And actually, the first one I actually talked to on here was Dave, ZL4 AD, LDY or,
yeah.
or W8 LDY, depending on which mode he's on. But he was the first one that I got with, and then Joel and Dennis and others, and found out about the net, so got involved with that. And Joel asked if I do net control, and about 2 months into it, I changed everything.
Yeah, you went net logger.
Well, no, I just actually. I
that's
didn't.
right. That's right. We're talking about instead of having the software, Russ. I was hoping Russ could be here and tell us about the software he wrote.
But anyway, I thought about. I got to looking at that, and there was about 50 people on the roster that was there. And on an average, I got to looking at the logs, and about a third of those would check in. And I don't know, I got this bright idea of trying to try a roll call just to see how it went. And it seems at the time that everybody liked it. Says, oh, I want to do that. Well, next thing I knew, everything changed up. Robert had it. Goodness, I'm trying to remember about for a long time, I heard him about maybe once a month when he was net control. And then let's say about December, I think said he wanted to pass it up in January, and all of the net controls said, let any 5V do it. Okay. Yeah. So have been doing it ever since. But anyway, had DMR, and then of course when all the other modes started coming in, I have D-Star, and I tried that for a while. Of course, that's at the bottom of the food chain right now. But the All-Star sort of changed everything. I got.
Oh, it did.
Yeah, I got All-Star in November 2019, I think, something like that. But anyway, that has definitely changed things. And well, heck, now I've got 2 nodes because I got curious. Of course, I bought the Clear node because it was pretty much plug and play, and then I wanted to see what the other one has. So I actually have a Shari node. So I do have experience on that, and I'm afraid now there may be a flood of podcasts about the Clear node. I've talked about doing it for a year and a half.
Yeah. They're both uploaded. We have both podcasts uploaded, and both YouTube videos are uploaded, and I swear they are awesome.
I do have a third one and a fourth one in mind, but the one about the right call signs, I'm thinking about the Clear node app way and the computer way.
Ooh, that's gonna be
because you can do it either way. So I may do that. May be my next one. I don't know, but I think that is going to be the next one. And then there's another one that I can do that I discovered a little feature on, but that's kind of beyond the scope of what we're doing now.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I wanted you here, because of being net control manager and with the history of the network, and plus you are the largest contributor. Think of the YouTube and podcasts. You have made more podcast tutorials and demos than anybody else. So I wanted to have you on here to sort of tell us, let everybody know, introduce you to everybody, and let them know that you need to listen to Chris's stuff.
Yeah, I guess that it was kind of interesting. I've had lots of people tell me that they got their MD380s from listening to those. I sort of did that one on a lark. Somebody said, you need to do this. Okay, let's see what happens. And so I've had lots of people tell me since, I got an MD380 because of you. I thought, well, wonderful.
Well, Julian, you got any questions for the guys? We've got history sitting here in front of us. We need to take advantage of it.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. No, I mean, I don't have any questions that come to mind, but again, I can't say enough about what a wonderful resource this is for anybody, but especially a ham or even a prospective ham who's blind, to know about this collection of brilliant minds that exists in this network. Because I've learned a lot, those CQ Blind Ham podcasts taught me a lot of things in the beginning too. I remember when I was first getting into DMR and I would hear about these hotspots and thinking, oh yeah, but from everything I heard described, it sounded like it was very visual. How does a blind person do it? Well, I went on CQ Blind Hams and found a podcast about how to set up a Pi-Star hotspot completely just using a screen reader. And when
Of course,
I heard
that's
that,
changed too. That at first it was a lot more visual than it was, and I think due to Joe Stevens, if I recall, he got with Andy Taylor and made that process so much easier.
well, whoever was responsible, I'm incredibly grateful to it, because hearing that podcast totally opened up that door for me. It's like, oh, I can do this. This is easy. So I went out and bought one and got a hotspot. And since then, I've moved on from that, and I have an open spot now, which is pretty easy to set up as well, and definitely easy to manage and work with. So again, if it wasn't for this collection of knowledge that exists, I would not have known about any of this stuff, and I would have thought, oh well, this is one aspect of the of this digital mode that I won't be able to participate in.
Well, it's great to know that it is accessible. The DMR, the D-Star, all of it's accessible, and thanks to you great contributors. I mean, Chris and KD8PC that did the stuff on the System Fusion. We've had some great content creators, and I want to let everybody know how much I appreciate you making my job easy. You create these great content, and all I've got to do is upload it. Upload it to the podcast and to YouTube, and make it available on the website. So we got the website that makes it easier. And I keep getting emails from people that are new, wanting to learn about this stuff. And I got one the other day about a gentleman that wanted to take the test online, and I remember Steve, AC9XS, I believe is his call sign.
Yeah.
And I remember he has helped make the testing online accessible. So I sent Steve an email, said, can you be our contact person for anybody new that has any questions about taking the test online? He said, yeah. So, I mean, you just look at the network of great minds, like you said, Julian, that we have available to us. And this just makes this hobby so great and accessible that it's just awesome. And I appreciate everybody. And we also like to thank Angelo for all his hard work. Angelo is our editor, and he does the recordings of the podcast. And Angelo does a lot of work behind the scenes, and we want to make sure that everybody knows about Angelo's work. So thank you, Angelo. Well, Dennis, what do you think about our first roundtable that you and Chris have been with us? We didn't bite or anything, did we?
No, I don't think so. You did very, very well. These people get an idea now how it really got started and how quickly it grew. It was just unbelievable. I was just new with DMR, and I talked on our own group here in Santa Barbara, and then when this blind network came up, all I do is monitor it now, and the other one is just quiet. So, and of course, with All-Star, it just makes it so much more pleasant to listen to. But yeah, I think it was good. And it's a nice bunch of people, and you really can learn about it. Blind people come on, and they think, oh, I can't do that. Until they see other ones do it and go, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So, at least it gives them a little bit of confidence.
That's right. I mean, like Chris said, we've had over 200 blind individuals check into the net. So that means 200 right there have done it and have been able to manipulate the technology enough to where they can get on the air and talk with us. And, we'd also like to thank Patrick for doing the network and putting all that together. We've had Patrick on here before doing a roundtable, and Patrick explained how he does all the network. So that's the reason that Patrick's not here. He's already been here and told us about how he's designed and how his equipment and servers and all that stuff. So if you look back for Patrick talking about how he does the network, that's a podcast anybody has not listened to should listen to. Well, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, it's been a wonderful, I guess, year and a half now, or 2 years almost. A little over 2 years now. Boy, how time flies.
It does.
It's been fun. I know, gosh, sometimes I think I'm holding court on there a lot of times because people start asking questions, and I think, oh, I got the answer to this one. So,
that's what this network is all about.
Yeah.
If you can just get on, even if it's with Echolink, get on the talk group or the All-Star node or the Echo Link node. Get on here, ask questions, because there's a lot of great minds that have done it. So just get on there and ask Chris, ask Dennis, ask Julian, Angelo, Bob, KLR. There's so many people, and Patrick, and we've got a great group, and I don't think anybody has gotten bitten for asking a question yet.
I'm thinking too, though, you're talking about the way the network has grown. I keep thinking if you're looking at radio equipment, look at what's happened to even the GD77S.
Yes.
And the GD77, how those things have morphed from what they were.
And the RD5R and the EM1801. Thanks to Roger Clark and Ian Spencer. You know, we had Ian Spencer on here, and I talked to Roger trying to get him to come on, and he said, no, I don't do podcasts, because I really wanted to talk to Roger and thank him. But Ian Spencer and now Joe Stevens, and I'm going to have Joe Stevens on. Joe's got a great insight on the software because he's a developer now.
I think a lot of this, of course, a lot of these have probably come from this very network. A lot of the things that have happened, especially a lot of the things Joe's done.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can you imagine? You buy a 77 by accident, or it was useless. It was like a brick. And so, oh, go away, somebody's calling me. And it made such a world of difference just to see the development from nothing to almost as good, or sometimes maybe better than the Kenwood 7400 Alpha, which I do have. And the two radios really made a difference from, what we had with the TAT. We did put the CWID, and that did help at the very beginning. At least we could get around and find the right, channel we wanted to look for. And but boy, it's such a world of difference now. Over to you, Joe.
Yeah, it really did. The firmware that for the 77 and the 77S, and Chris did another great podcast on the 77S. That's where I got started. I found the 77S and thought, well, I'll get on DMR and have a good time, not knowing that, these radios they're like rabbits. You set one down and another one will appear right beside it. I've got 11 HTs. And
I got about 8.
In 5 years, I've been a ham. And 4 of them are DMR. So, but I don't use them as DMR anymore. I've got 3 hotspots and don't use any of those anymore because I got the clear node and the shari node. I'm like Chris. I bought a shari node, and all of a sudden I needed a clear node because I wanted to see what the difference was. And hotspots and nodes, they seem to reproduce if you set them down long enough.
Yeah, there you go. That's interesting. 5 years, see the difference you had? You should see when I started in 1963. They were just getting the sideband, and FM really wasn't around at the time. On 2 meters, it was all AM for a while, and then of course FM came up, and then synthesizer radios. Oh boy, didn't have to buy crystals anymore. And you can go all over the place. And then, of course, the digital modes. So it was a great big difference from the early 60s to now. It's just unbelievable.
So, guys, I'm in search of not the oldest, but the longest blind ham in their group. And Dennis, you said 63 is when you got your license, I believe. So that makes you 58 years. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
How long have you been, Chris?
Oh, right at 51 years now.
51. Do you know anybody that's longer than you, Dennis, that's a blind ham, 58?
Not right offhand. I knew a couple, but they passed away. I don't know. We'll have to take a record of how old people are when they got their license. I
got a buddy of mine, Gary, in Chattanooga. He's only been on our network just a little while. The N4IAM has been a ham for over 60 years. So right now, in my mind, he's been around the longest in the hobby. So we're looking for people that's been in longer. And
John up there is pretty close to me. He's right around the same time frame, KD8 PC. So
yeah.
But of course, even back then, the what people did 50 years ago was quite a bit different. Most, like mine was HF. I really didn't get into 2 meters to speak of till the late 70s. John started out on 2 meters in the early 70s. So, and, got to HF later.
I started on 2 meters as well, plus HF. When I was a novice, I was doing CW. That's all you could do, unless you were on 10, I guess. But and that was only good for a year, and you had to upgrade or whatever. And so I did both right away, and it was fun. Of course, in 1979, when there was a real good opening, 10 meters was my favorite band because you had a lot of room. I mean, stations from Africa and all over Europe and Asia were just like local, especially Long Path in the mornings. It was just unbelievable. So I confirmed 260 countries.
I can remember light bulbs as antennas on that band occasionally.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Wow, Julian, what do you think about this? These guys talking about long path and light bulb antennas. You haven't been around ham very long either, have you?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'm in ham years. I guess I'm probably, a teenager. No, I got my license in 1990. So, I've been around for a bit.
31 years. That's
31 years, yeah.
Wow. I'm the baby. I've only been in ham 5.5 years.
Long path is an interesting thing to hear. And I found, I didn't realize it, but I was one of these who didn't have a beam on HF for years. That's been a recent thing for me, about 8 years now. But there's where I really noticed the long path, where it sort of echoes a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've had it happen on occasion where there's a long enough path where I can hear myself come back.
Exactly.
That was interesting.
It is. I'm looking forward to that.
I had a pretty good station at one time. We were going to move, and I took everything down, but I had twin 14-element beams on 2 meters.
Oh, wow.
And it was, up at 75 feet. And we're on a little hill here in Santa Barbara, and right overlooking the ocean. And I worked Hawaii, and I worked, Arizona and stuff. And then sideband on 2 meters, worked the Bay Area and Arizona and Utah, I think, once. But and then HF, I had 6 elements at 65 feet, right below the 2 meter stuff. And it worked well for years and years and years. What was neat is when the first talking VFO, either external or one of the radios that would talk, it made it so much easier, because before we had to use the calibration, for marking where you are exactly. And it worked fine. You get used to things. And so that made it nice. But boy, now with the 590S, and I got a 2000 here, which just sits there, and I use it once in a while on 2 meter sideband. But all these radios, half the time you don't use a lot of them, especially HTs. I get 3 TATs, and somebody gave me an Anytone. We tried to figure it out, so I had to put the weather as markers so I know where I'm at. And then what else is there? All the good grief, the 77S, a couple of those, and of course the 77, and then the Kenwood TH 74 Alpha, I would say.
Yeah, yours is the only one of those I've ever held in my life. When I were out visiting, Beth Ann and I were out visiting Joanne and Dennis back in 2019. He let me hold one of the THD 74A. That's a fine radio.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
I use it for All-Star now, and it works. The audio is so good on it, and so you might as well have best audio on the radio. And I have a friend that has a monitor and scope, and he loves digital. And every time he sets one up, All-Star, I said, "You're going to do mine," because I like the audio that he does from it. So
it's interesting. Even on D-Star, you hear a lot of the ICOMs, the Kenwoods, and all that. Even on D-Star, the D74A outperforms most of them that I've ever heard.
Yeah, it really does.
Kenwood's audio's the best. I think some of the best audio to start with. Well, this is going to be the moral to this story for all the new people that are coming in and listening to this podcast. Hear the progression of what these guys have done. They started with DMR and they progressed to All-Star. So when you're new, why not just start with All-Star? Save yourself some
Absolutely.
money and some headache. Is that right,
Yep.
Chris?
I would say so. Of course, even depending on which All-Star node you have, you could still access DMR if that's what you want to do. It's kind of so-so, but it works.
Yeah, if you just have to have all DMR, get you a clear node and do it that way, but just start with All-Star. I think that's the best thing I can recommend. I wish
Well,
of
course,
I have a
course, if we
slightly
had-
different perspective on that.
Oh, go ahead, tell us, Julian.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in a sense because it's I started with analog, of course, and then got into DMR and then went back to analog because ultimately it sounds better. But I like DMR. There are some redeeming things about DMR. For example, I use it all the time to communicate with my friends locally. When we're going to get together, meet somewhere, we'll get on the local repeater that has DMR. And I find that DMR simplex, especially here in this area, just tends to travel better. I tend to get better performance and distance and overall audio quality out of DMR simplex than I do analog simplex. We've done a lot of experimenting.
Yeah, I've heard that. Angelo,
you
talked about that before.
Of course, we'll
go further.
The other side of this coin, if we had all started on All-Star, we might have entirely missed each other.
There you go.
Yep,
That's true.
that's right.
It's true. So you're right, Julian. It has its redeeming capabilities. DMR does it does go further on analog or simplex. But yeah, you're right. I take that back. But still, it depends on if you don't have any any DMR repeaters, and if you have to buy a hotspot to get into the modes, to get into the networks, might start with All-Star and then make it work on DMR. Or if you get GD77 and you got the simplex DMR capability, and you can still have your All-Star.
Yep.
Well, guys, I'm not sure what time it is, but Dennis has got to go have an appointment this morning, so I didn't want to keep everybody too long, and I did want to let everybody know about the sort of the history of this network. The network bridge, the blindhams.com website, the CQ Blind Hams podcast, CQ Blind Hams on YouTube. There's a lot of places and a lot of ways to get information about this great hobby for a blind person. So just stay tuned, and we'll be back in a few weeks with another great topic. I want to say 7-3, everybody. You got anything else, Chris, before we go?
No, just everybody, as Matt says, be radioactive.
Radioactive, Dennis?
Absolutely. Radioactive has been around for lots of years. It's the best hobby I've ever been in. And you meet so many people you can't believe, after years and years and years, they remember my call or whatever, and meet people absolutely by accident somewhere. And they always, when you're traveling, a lot of them say, come on over, have lunch or whatever, meet somewhere. And so you're never without friends on ham radio, that's for sure. 7-3 all, and now listen till we sign out here.
7-3, guys.
73.